All right. Good afternoon, friends and family, community. I hope everyone had a great celebration yesterday, just being with people that they loved and remembering the freedoms and liberations that we still have. I haven't posted a video in a little while, but today some things were downloaded into my brain, so I thought I would create a little video for you guys. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, it always is a part of my own recovery process in emotional processing to make these videos. So thank you for watching them and being a part of my emotional sobriety. I am making a pretty raw video, and the whole family is home today. So if there's interruptions, is what it is. So I was thinking today about how difficult it is to be on emotional roller coasters when you're in a toxic relationship. And to be totally transparent, the father of my child and I have been diligently working to repair our family, and there's a lot of love between us still, and willingness. And so when I share some of my personal experiences, it's not to put our laundry on the street, but it's because we're in a space where we feel comfortable enough to be transparent, and try to help others. But we have been through hell and back. We've been together for 10 years. And we had a child within 8 months of knowing each other. So we really got to know each other within our relationship, and then also go through learning ourselves in that relationship. Because we both are kind of going through our own awakening identities and stuff while being in this relationship. So that alone, just being an active family member outside of childhood and playing a role as an adult for both of us has been triggering to PTSD and other stuff that went down. So acknowledging that alone, like just having to show up as a family member as an adult, looks a lot different than what we think it does when we're kids, or the expectation is different. It's a lot harder than we anticipated. So those have been a lot of things that we've been growing through, and I'm so grateful for it. But yesterday I was thinking about this experience after a discussion he and I had that reminded me of how people forget how much your relationship can affect others around you. And we know that, things like emotional sobriety, addiction, sobriety, and all of those things are really a family disease. Even people with eating disorders, anything that you're doing to harm yourself is going to be like a family disease, or in a sense where because it's affecting the people that love you, and they're watching you hurt yourself. And so all these different traumas occur because then people develop coping mechanisms, etc. Mine happens to be anger, which is what I am working through and doing really great at. So thank you for anyone who cares. Just kidding. Okay, so I was thinking about how, I'm just going to say it, my parents would go through these phases where the day would be so chaotic, and then in the afternoon they were ready to like participate as family members. And that's what me and my partner also started doing in our own family. Was like we'd have a morning where we'd both kind of bicker about something, and the person who ended up suffering the most was the child, right? Because she's the most vulnerable, she's innocent. Just another morning of like, oh, I'm gonna go to my room, and like I don't want to hear my mom and dad talk about the same stuff they're talking about, right? And so the child then goes to the room and learns that isolation is a coping mechanism, and that maybe even anger and frustration at us. So then she's going to come back out later with an attitude problem that kind of sounds like the same way we talk to each other. So I'm combining two experiences. I started off talking about my childhood, and I learned that, and then I brought it to my own family. So I'm going to keep it there because this is a blame-free channel, victim-free channel. This is accountability only. So what happens though is how selfish it is for the parent or the person who's engaging in this toxic behavior that affects everybody around them. And then they're like, oh, okay, I'm done being in my mood, and now I'm going to go back and I'm ready to, act right. more or less. And this can be expanded, not just in a family dynamic. This could be a relationship, a friendship, whatever, right? It's really difficult to be with people that struggle with bipolar or borderline personality disorders or depression or addiction, because there's this up and down moodiness with it. And if you're not working at a spiritual lifestyle that is keeping you emotionally sober, then you're going to fall into toxic ways of reacting. And that's just not the way to go. Oh, hi, Kiki. Come here. But what I wanted to say, though, is how much I noticed that it was so heavy for the child to see us be like frustrated in the morning, and then by the afternoon just be like, okay, honey, Dad and I worked it out and we're ready to go on a hike now and we're fine, and that is it's really okay in one sense, because children need to see that relationships aren't perfect, families aren't perfect, but when the person, whether it's your child or your coworker or your neighbor or whatever, has now felt the explosion of your moment, and then you take them on that low and you bring them back up on that high a couple hours later because maybe you've calmed down or something, it does affect the person so much more than we realize. And that's the portion of my emotional sobriety that I'm really working on right now, is getting out of selfishness, where it's like, yeah, but what about my da-da-da, and this is why I'm da-da-da-da, because then it makes you forget how that is affecting the other person. Just the energy, right? The energy of like, now she has an obstacle course over here, my kitten. You're pushing that energy of whatever you're feeling onto the other person, and then you've decided that mood swing is gone, so now you're ready to go participate. And it's hard on kids because they don't run their own life, and so you're building this foundation of them having to be like, okay, fine, I got to get up and go hiking now with my two parents who I'm still actually kind of pissed off about for ruining my whole day, and so I think it's important to, and I'm kind of going on all these different angles right now, but I think it's important to remember that it's specifically, if we're talking about children, what it's teaching them to not let them have emotion. So when it's all about the person in recovery all the time and all what they're going through, and I say it like that because I am that person and I get irritated with myself. I'm never judging anyone else. I'm usually judging myself if I get in a weird tone, and I'm going to work on that as well. But, when it's all about like their suffering, and not to kick me or minimize my suffering, but when it is nobody else in the family, nobody else in the friendship or the work environment gets to have an emotion, and then there's not a platform for communication and positive, productive conversation to process through it, right? So then you go to a toxic, like yelling or, no, I don't want to go on a hike now, or like whatever. So I hope some of that made sense. I wanted to wrap that around also being patient with family members who aren't ready for your recovery yet. I've dropped that. Or friends. I keep saying family members because that's kind of what I'm going through, is I've lost a lot of family that I'm missing deeply. But whoever in your life, if you're in this process of changing and they're not ready to see you or accept you in that yet, just remembering that everybody is allowed to come around when they are granted that process, that part of their process. So think about that. Think about how we were projecting our energy onto people, being accountable for it, remembering that like if we have had a mood swing, we got to let that person kind of go through their shit now too. So pause. I'm trying not to be moody. It's the hardest thing in the world during a time like this. I love you guys. I hope this video was cool for you. And please hit like and subscribe and share if it hit you somewhere that feels good. Kitty, kitty. I wanted to show you Kitten one more time. Let's see. Kiki. Oh. All right, y'all.